South Africa continues to face a DNA backlog, delaying arrests and prosecutions, particularly in rape cases. In September, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu told Parliament that about 1,400 rape cases were thrown out of court due to insufficient evidence. This week, the DNA board found that the SAPS Forensic Labs was by a large margin behind in the collection, testing and assessment of samples. Portfolio Committee Chair on Police Ian Cameron joins us now to chat more on this very disturbing matter. Good morning, Ian. Not a very good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Newzroom Afrika.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Can you elaborate on the current challenges facing the National Forensics Science Laboratories and how the new board can address them?
So it's important, first of all, to just say the mandate of the board really is an oversight mandate, and it's difficult because they've got a very small budget. It's something that we have also recommended to be improved from the committee side. The challenge is that it's a part-time. It's a bit of a volunteer exercise. A lot of the people on the DNA board are, in my opinion, very competent. It is encouraging to see people that offer so much time to this. But again, without the relevant resources, they can't do much. In terms of the oversight of the SAPS forensic capacity, at the moment, and it was shocking to hear once again, you'd remember not too long ago, we had a massive DNA backlog of cases that were just far behind in terms of processing. And at the moment, that stands at more or less 70,000 cases. And you can work at about 3 or 4 pieces of evidence per case. So it means that even if SAPS wanted to relieve this just with their current capacity, it would take years to do. And it would really mean that we would need to look at some kind of partnership for them to resolve this.
When we speak about a partnership, what exactly are you referencing?
Well, to me, it's important to take hands with universities. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go and visit a forensics and DNA center at the University of Cape Town. Absolutely phenomenal. It's a state-of-the-art facility, and it is something that can relieve immense pressure on SAPS. They already do huge work along with the state pathologist and the Department of Health in terms of certain forensic work. But in terms of DNA specifically, they haven't gotten involved yet. Now, they process what they told me, about 4,000 bodies per year at that facility. And if you just look at the Western Cape as an example, the total amount is approximately 10,000. So it means that they would be able to significantly impact and influence the rate at which DNA processing is done. And if you look at the professional way in which it's run, I think it really gives me hope to say that there's also an opportunity to do in-service training of SAPS members and increase the resilience and depth of the SAPS forensic capabilities.
All right. Now, Ian, can you explain what you mean by DNA-driven prosecution and how it relates to the use of forensic DNA evidence in criminal investigations?
Yeah, well, DNA is one of the most important building blocks of a solid investigation. If we look at something like child rape, for example, which is a massive problem in South Africa. I mean, the Eastern Cape and the numbers that we recently saw, about 45% of crimes that are reported that are committed against children include rape. And so with DNA, you'd be able to literally, in many cases, match the suspect or the accused to the scene and to the victim. Without that being processed, it's one critical factor that is very difficult to then prove in a court of law. And I'm oversimplifying it, but it is literally something that's the difference between putting a rapist behind bars and not. A case that I will never forget is the case of little Chantal Makwena in the Eastern Cape. It took almost, I believe, between 2 and 3 years just to have DNA processed. And within that time, the rapist that was later on convicted continued to rape during his time outside. So it could have made a huge difference if that could be processed in a much shorter time, and we'd be able to see the relevant convictions actually being made to keep these rapists behind bars.
And on that note, how do you envision the National Forensic Oversight and Ethics Board, the DNA board, strengthening DNA-driven prosecution in South Africa?
Yeah, so it's a very important question. The recommendation that I made to them and that the committee felt very strongly about, in fact, the committee really drove a lot of these issues, was with regards to them just saying what their findings were, but not holding SAPS accountable. It's important to us that we said, but what have you done to go and meet with the relevant SAPS authority along with the prosecuting authority to see where the shortcomings were in terms of this DNA processing? And we said to them, you need to come forward with some kind of an integrated strategy. There's no use in you only doing visits and coming to tell us a year later what you found was wrong. We need to have in-time, consistent communication. And if they need the assistance of the police committee, obviously we'll do that. Again, it comes back to resource shortages. These people aren't paid full-time to do what they do. They all have other jobs. So they do it because they believe in the cause. But again, we can't attempt to put a body like this in place without resourcing it properly, because in my opinion, it would then be counterproductive. I must again credit them for actually coming forward with the report that they did. I think to us, it's to see what should the outcomes be that we can measure over time to determine whether their oversight is successful or not.
Now, Ian, in light of the fact that prevention is better than cure, what are your proposed measures on addressing the root causes of child rape and sexual violence in South Africa?
So, look, I'm going to be very honest about this, is that I think there's a moral fiber question that we need to ask in South Africa. The fact that rape, in many cases, is kind of looked over like, it's just another rape. And that's literally how some people speak of it in South Africa, is extremely disturbing. The fact that children aren't safe in South Africa with regards to sexual offences is extremely concerning. And it says something about the moral fiber, about parts of society in South Africa. So that's just a general comment. Then furthermore, I believe it's become too easy to just blame the police. Often with these types of cases, especially something like rape, the police, often get the blame for, look at the rape stats increasing. The police cannot combat something like rape that is very often committed by someone in the family, someone known to the victim, and it makes it extremely difficult for them to do. So, in my opinion, we need to get bodies like, for example, social development, even the Department of Education. There are many different institutions that can play a role into influencing the psyche of young people from a young age in order to get them to think differently about something like, this last week I saw a case in the Cape Flats where a 14-year-old girl was gang raped by boys that were 11 or 12 years old. How on earth, where did they get that from? How is that okay? Where did they learn that? We need to start asking those questions, but really we need to question the foundation of moral fiber in the country, because it just seems like it's become the norm.
So, Ian, what legislative changes are needed to empower the DNA board and strengthen its independence and capacity?
Well, I think it's been previously mentioned that should it be looked at as a body, a watchdog body on its own? Is it something that should be considered almost like an IPIT, but just specifically for forensics? Is it something that holds forensic services to account? I believe that can be good. I think that if we can possibly consider amending legislation to say that there's a certain turnaround time for the relevant forensic services to have to give feedback to the DNA board, then I really do think we can see a better turnaround time. We just need an official body that can actually hold them to account. Now, we can do that from the police committee side. The challenge is that our mandate is mainly strategic, and it's a broader overview of the whole issue. So I think if we can make changes with which they can really hold them to account, they can hold the relevant commanders to account, and that it's not just a body that is seen as ticking the boxes of oversight, and SAPS just shrugs it off once the report is given. It really must mean the difference between a forensics commander losing his job or getting it done in a certain space of time.
I couldn't agree with you more. And lastly, before I let you go, Ian, the DNA board was established in May 2020, yet it remains largely unknown to the public. So as the chairperson of the portfolio committee, what are your strategies to raise awareness about the DNA board's work and to make its portfolio more visible to the public?
So, and this is, again, maybe I'm too direct about these things sometimes, and this is what I said to them in the committee. I said to them, the excuse of not having resources is not an excuse for the public to not know about you. We all have social media, we all have access to social media. It's mainly free, and there's so much that they can do. I mean, I've offered help to them. Parliament, I know, has said they will help to share any information regarding the DNA board. It's just a matter of them starting to share who and what they are. And even if it's the individuals in the DNA board, let's assist with that in building them a public profile. So, you know, we're really pushing for that. I don't buy the excuse of resources for marketing anymore, because everyone in this modern age has access to social media. There's so much that we can do at little or no cost. And also, I must say this, if you buy into the idea of doing that kind of work and oversight, it's very important that you take the initiative to market yourself. It's not up to the rest of the world to figure out a way of giving you a profile. But from the police committee side, we will do what we can to support them and to help them raise awareness about who and what they are.
Ian, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your sterling work. And thank you for just joining us and enlightening us today.